So, are you getting my screen? That's my voice, all of you.
Yes, Shiva.
So, everything is audible to you, right? All of you. So, today, um, as I mentioned in last class, so that there is nothing but hub and spoke architecture. So, that thing we'll discuss on tomorrow. So, tomorrow at the same time, we'll want to discuss basically. Okay, so meanwhile, we'll discuss about a one more concept called as an availability sets. Basically, what is availability sets? Just I have discussed with you in maybe in network security group concept, right? So, but what is the necessity to go for availability set, or how can we implement practically this availability sets within the Azure cloud account, right? So, these all these things we're going to discuss in this respective concept here, basically. Okay, so we're going to discuss about so as you know, it is a logical grouping of virtual machine. So what is the reason to go for availability set first of all? Okay, so let us go with some example. So uh, so most of us, you know that already we are utilizing some what we call mobiles, right? So in which case basically this mobile will not work here, any of you? In which case basically these mobiles will not work? It can be a software issues, okay, like maybe some updating software, so that maybe they uh, that may be the issue. Okay, and one more thing is it may be related to some hardware issues as well. Okay, so it can be some display issue or maybe some mic problem. So these are the maybe these are the options in which this mobile will not work irrespective of network. Okay, so mostly if you go with the software issues, so like maybe some updating software or updating some apps, at that point of time maybe that the mobile may not work, right? So mostly if it is taking some OS related updates, right, so at that time definitely your mobile will not work. So maybe some 4 to 5 minutes your mobile is in a switch off mode basically, right? So, and one more thing is hardware issues. It can be some display issue. So maybe it is not working. A display is not working as you expected at that time. So definitely you're not able to utilize your mobile, right? Or it can be some mic problem. So in these situations, you are not able to utilize your mobile, right? Same way, if you go with this data center, so as I already explained you what is the data center, these all these things. In data center point of view also, we are already having some issues. So how we are, how this mobile is not working. So I have mentioned some issues, right? It can be some software issues or hardware issues. Say in a similar way, even if you go with some data center, right? So data center is also having some issues here. So if you observe the software issues point of view, it may be some software upgrades. Because if you observe any web application, what are the web applications in which you are developing in real time, so it doesn't it is not only require a single software, right? So it may require so many softwares. So maybe some it requires some Java software or MySQL or maybe some Oracle or maybe some server's point of view, maybe some Linux server or maybe some Tomcat server. These are all these things is nothing but a software only, right? So definitely some software updates is going on at that point of time. So maybe that data center, not a Excel data center here, maybe some that respect to virtual machine, so maybe down at that point of time. There is nothing but a software issues. Hardware issues, it may be some power failure or maybe some systems down, right? So these all these things, this may happen. So at that point of time, maybe some data center, so complete data center may be down at that point of time. So that is a very rare case, right? So complete data center is down means it is a very rare case basically. It may not be happen. Okay, maybe some natural disaster may be happen. That may be chance is there, but complete data center will not be down at any point of time, right? So these are the some software and hardware issues related to data center as well. So if you are facing some software issues and hardware issues in data center point of view, right? So even though if you are facing some software and hardware issues, still we need to get some request and response. Okay, let us assume Google is having some data center. Google is having some multiple data center, right? If one data center is not working, let us assume, it may not be happen, let us assume, okay, Google data center is not working, maybe some US data center is not working, still we are able to access Google, right? How it is happen? Because of this availability set scam, availability sets concept. Okay, so if something is not working as we expected in data center point of view or inside of data center, it can be some software issues or hardware issues. Irrespective of these issues, so we need to operate or we need to utilize the respective application. It can be some Google or it can be of your social networking sites, anything, whatever thing which you are using, which you are utilizing on daily basis basically. Okay, so how it is possible here? Whenever if you are implementing this availability sets concept, it can be a data center or it can be some within the Azure cloud accounts also, we can able to implement this availability set concept here basically. Okay, so we can overcome this, or otherwise we can say that if you want to overcome the software issues and hardware issues in the respective data centers, right, we can achieve by using availability set concepts here basically. Okay, so let us summarize these 2 points. We want to where so everybody is getting my voice or some of you not getting? Satish,
I am getting Shiva.
what about remaining? Vidya and Narsimha, Ramesh, Satish, Vidya.
I'm getting Shiva.
I hope all of you are getting my voice, right? So whoever is not getting, maybe just you can check your internet or maybe just try to log in once again. Okay, so most of you are getting. So we need to implement now. The question is, how can we implement this availability sets concept within the Azure cloud account here? Okay, so as you know, So if you want to create some virtual machine, so how we are creating basically, so is my screen is visible, all of you?
Yes, Shiva.
So if anybody is not getting my voice or screen, right, so just try to log in once again basically. Okay, maybe your network issue, that is the only. Okay, so basically if you want to create some virtual machine, what we are doing, we are creating some resource group, virtual network, sub network, these things we are creating basically, and then finally we are creating some virtual machine, right? So let us implement the same basically. So just log into portal.azure. So let me create some resource group. Just click on create. So Azure test, next tags, next we will create. Finally click on create. So resource group is created. So then we need to create some virtual networks. So we are not finding virtual networks. Click on create. Azure test, and maybe some virtual network name, maybe some next IP address. Add subnet. Click on add. So next security, next tags, next we will create. Finally click on create. So it is created basically. Okay. So after creating this virtual token subnetwork, so generally we are trying to create some virtual machine, right? So just click on create virtual machine. Here you're going to select your resource group, whatever the resource group which you have created basically. Maybe I will create some Linux machine. So here you need to select some Ubuntu. Okay, so basically here what we are doing, so we're selecting the respective image, respective size, and we are going with password, and we are going for next disks and networking management, advanced tags, and preview and create. But before that, if you observe here, we're having a option called as an availability options here. Okay, so one is availability zone, we'll discuss this thing later, and one more thing is availability set. Okay, so if you go for if you choose this option as an availability set, right, so just click on create new. So within this create availability set, here you can provide whatever the availability set name you can, whatever the availability set you want, you can provide the respective availability set name. And here we're having a two more things. One is file domain and one more thing is the update domain. Okay, one is file domain and one more thing is update domain. So we need to discuss about this, what is this file domain and update domain within the availability set. Okay, so if you want to know this, what is file domain and update domain, we require a basic concept. I think maybe I have discussed with you. Let me discuss this concept. So what is web application? Okay, so the application is having client server architecture. So the type of applications we are calling as applications basically. Okay, so what this client server architecture we will discuss. Okay, so basically if you're finding any application which is having some client server architecture, right, so that type of applications we are calling as in web applications here. Okay, so let us discuss some web application architecture. Okay, so these things basically we are calling as in front end technologies. Okay,
Hello, Siva.
yes.
His screen is not visible. It's totally blank. From the past 5 minutes, I'm getting that thing only.
Who is it?
It's Ramesh.
Okay, let me stop and share. Are you getting now?
No,
Is it for all?
No, sure, I'm getting.
I'm getting Shiva.
okay, then I will rejoin.
Okay. here this java.net php. So these things basically we are calling as, okay. So basically in this middleware, so we have some business logic. Say what this business logic, what these things we will discuss, okay. And these MySQL, Oracle, or PostgreSQL. So we're having so many databases basically. So these things we are calling as a backend technologies. Okay. So simply we can say that we have database related stuff to store some data. And this is a front end. So by using the above technologies, so we are able to develop these things. So like if you observe Gmail, right? So Gmail, if you observe, we can provide some username and password where you're able to log in that respective Gmail account, right? So if you want to design that type of screens, right? Basically you are using some front end technologies. So like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Angular, so many technologies we're having basically. It depends upon the requirement basically. Okay. So now if you observe this some business logic, so let us assume you have given some wrong password in the Gmail screen, right? So it is displaying some message. So your Gmail is not matched, sorry, your password is incorrect or password mismatch. Some message they display, right? So these types of validations or these types of logic they're going to implement in this respective phase, I mean middleware, in this respect to middleware technologies. It can be some Java, .NET, PHP. So we're having so many technologies. It can be any of these technologies here. Okay. And if you go for this MySQL, Oracle, or PostgreSQL, just it is going to store some data. Okay. Let us assume you are creating some new Gmail account, right? So while creating the account, so they're going to take some information from you, maybe what type of email you want or what type of name you want to display, right? Or maybe some date of birth. These all these things they're going to take it, they're going to store it in your this respective database here. And even while creating a new Gmail account, so basically they are going to take some password here, which type of password you want to provide, right? So these all these things they're going to store in MySQL. Once this account is created, so if you're trying to log in as within your new Gmail account, if you're not providing some password, right? So already you have given some password. Let us assume you have given some abc at rate of 1234, right, while creating the Gmail account. So that password is already stored in MySQL, but while logging into your new Gmail account, you have given some ABC123. You have forgotten some 45. That is the issue, right? So that password is not matched in the MySQL database. So that is the reason. So they're going to provide some user-friendly message, like maybe some password mismatch. So password is, I mean, email ID or password is not matched. Some user-friendly message, so that you're going to avoid that. So whatever the password which I have given is wrong. So these types of this much of flow is required if you want to develop that type of applications here. So backend, this much of logic is implemented basically. Okay. So basically here what we are doing, so we are giving some request from Gmail, right? So this request will go to this middleware first of all. So from this middleware it will go to this databases. So once the request you have given, so it is going to validate this username and password, I mean your Gmail and password. Okay. So if it is fine, so finally you're going to get the response as a positive. So if username and password, right, is matched, so you're going to get some inbox as a welcome page within the Gmail, right? So this is nothing but a request basically. and this is a response. So this is nothing but a overview of web application. Basically, this is a small architecture which I explained you. So it can be some complex architectures as well. Okay, but if you want to develop a simple, or if you are developing some web application which is from scratch, right, which is from beginning onwards, you're developing some application. These are the minimum requirements. These are the minimum technologies which you require, whether it is a front end or middleware or a back end. Okay, so it may be some complex architectures as well, maybe some, if you observe the Google, so they're going to maintain so much of complex architecture, and even they're going to include so many of new technologies as well. Maybe they're going to add some artificial intelligence, or maybe some big data, or maybe some Apache Kafka. So it can be anything basically. Okay, so once if you develop this type of applications, right, so here I have included so many of technologies means, so definitely we're going to get so many of files as well, right. So all these files I was unable to deploy in any of the web server or any of the application server, like Nginx or maybe some Apache Tomcat. These are the servers here basically. Okay, so once if you execute some build command, right, so this command, it is available in it can be any of the IDEs. So let us assume if you want to develop this type of applications, we require some IDEs. Okay, maybe some Eclipse. Okay, if you want to develop some Java applications, we require some Eclipse IDE, or maybe some NetBeans IDE, or maybe some STS. These are the IDEs if you want to develop some Java applications. If you are going with some .NET, right, we require some Visual Studio. So if you want to develop some .NET applications, Visual Studio is a very much user friendly, we can say that, right. So within that IDEs, we're having some build command. So once if you execute this build command, right, so from this much of web application, or whatever the files you have created, let us assume within this web application you have created maybe some 20 files, right. So this, all these 20 files, it will be available in a single file. Okay, so after executing of this respect to build command, it can be some jar or war file. All of these files will be available in a single file, so it can be jar or war files here. So once if you got this, whether it is, let us assume I have got some jar file, right, so you need to deploy this jar file on any of the application servers. It can be a Apache Tomcat, or it can be some Nginx server, or it can be some Glassfish server, or Oracle WebLogic. So we're having so many application servers, you can utilize any of these servers. So once if we deploy this application on any of the servers, so it is going to available publicly. So how you're accessing the Google, same way you, if we can access your web application. What are the web application in which you have developed here basically? That is nothing but what we are calling as a client server architecture. So client is going to hit the request to the server. So from the server he is going to get the response as well. Okay, whatever the thing which you have developed. So if you are developing this type of applications, right, so what we are calling as a client server architecture here basically. Okay, so any doubts, any of you till now? So you have got some basic idea what is web application, what this client server architecture, or what this build command is, all these things. So if you're having any doubts, you can ask instead of typing something. Is it fine, all of you? So Ramesh, Satish, Vidya, Swati, Narsimha, Jagdish, any doubts?
No doubt,
No
Shiva.
doubt.
No doubt, Shiva.
Okay. So why we require this web application here basically? So if you want to understand this fall domain and update domain in this create availability set, right? So compulsory we required this web application information. I mean So you need to aware about this web application concept here. Okay, that is the reason we discussed about what is web application basically. Okay, so now what is a data center? So this thing I already discussed, just I'm explaining one more time just to recall. So a collection of these servers are known as racks. Collection of these racks in a or data center. Okay, so this is nothing but what is exactly data center. This thing you know already basically. Okay, so now we will discuss about this fault domain and update domain basically. So let us assume this is a Azure data center. So as I mentioned you, so I have mentioned some racks, right? So within these racks we're having some servers. So within this data center we're having some racks. Within these racks we're having some servers. Nothing but you can assume it as a virtual machine. Each machine we can call it as a server, right? Basically. So these are the racks basically. Okay, so like that we can have n number of racks within a particular data center. So just for understanding sake, I have taken some 3. Okay, so after that here each and every rack is having some servers, nothing but a you can assume it as an virtual machines, right? So like this we are having some one VM, right? So like this we're having one more VM. So like this we're having some one more VM. So like this. Okay, so it can be n number of servers within this respect to racks basically. Okay, so as I mentioned you, if you observe in our previous classes, so once if you let us assume once you have created some virtual machine, right? So within that respect to virtual machine you are installing some Nginx server. That is nothing but one of the application server, right? On this application server you can deploy whatever the jar or war file which is available to you. Okay, so you can deploy this either jar or war file, right? So there is nothing but completely what we are calling here basically it is a web application, right? So this web application I am deploying in this server. Let us assume this is web app. This is web app. So here web app 1 2 3 is nothing but a only single application. Okay, so here the same application I am placing in this respect to server here. This is also web app 1 only. The same application here also I am placing. This is also web app 1 only, not web app 3. Okay, just I have given some names, that's it. Okay, same application, same web application I am I am deploying in this respect to server and this respect to server and this respect to server. Okay, so now if you go with this file domain, so if you observe here, so here we're having some values, right? File domain is 2 or you can make it as in 3, so you can make it as a 1, so like this basically. Okay, So what this, I mean, whenever if you're giving some value for domain, right? So what is going to happen in internally within the respect to data center basically. Okay, so if fault domain is one, sorry, all three web apps be in one rack. Okay, if my fault domain is one, all three web apps will be in one rack. I mean, this is the scenario. Okay, if my fault domain is two, okay, all three web apps will be available in two racks. Means this may be scenario if my fault domain is 2. So if my fault domain is 3, right, all these three web apps will be available in 3 racks, or we can say that different racks. So this may be scenario. So like this. Okay, so in real time mostly they're going with fault domain as a 3. So what is the reason? Okay, so let us assume if you are going with fault domain as a 1, right, what is the problem? All these three web apps are a same application. Okay, that thing you need to keep in mind. Okay, so these are the not the different applications, these are the web app 1 2 3 are same web application. Okay, let us assume Gmail. So Gmail is common for each and every server. Okay, Gmail web application is common for each and every server. Okay, so if you're keeping this all these three web apps in a single rack, right, what is the problem here? There is a chance that if this rack is down, right, complete we are not able to access that complete Gmail application because this complete rack is down. So there is a chance that, so whenever if you are having these three web apps in the single server, or sorry, single rack, right, maybe this web app 1 is down, web app 2 is down, so we're able to access from web app 3. That is the case, if that is the case, okay. But if this complete rack is down, so this complete web application is available on multiple servers in this respect to single rack. If the single rack is down, right, we are even not able to provide it, we are not able to access that complete web application. That is the problem. Okay, but if you're going with some fault domain 2, right, so this is the scenario what we're having. So even though this web app 3 is available in this rack 1, right, even this rack 1 is completely down, we are able to get the request from rack 2. I mean, we are able to utilize our web application by using rack 2. Okay, and even rack 3 as well. So even this rack 1 and rack 2 is down, we are able to get the request from rack 3. But in real time they are always preferring for fault domain as a 3. Okay, this is the worst scenario. So mostly at many of times maybe this rack 1 is down. Okay, so there is very less chances that rack 2 is down. Okay, but that is also worst scenario. So that is the reason they are maintaining some fault domain as a 3. Means same application, just they are replicating in a multiple racks within of that respect to servers. Each and every rack is having some server, right? So they are replicating the existing web application in a multiple racks of that respect to servers. Whatever the servers, it will be available in the respect to racks here basically. Simply we can say that we are replicating the existing application into a multiple racks by using the concept called as a fault domain here. Okay, so is the concept is fine? Fault domain, all of you, any doubts? what we have achieved here, fault domain. So if somebody is not getting, let me know. So what is the conclusion here? Respective of and software issues acts, we need to access the web application. A concept called as domains. This is a fault domain. So now we're having a one more concept called as an update domain. Okay, what is update domain? So is this fault domain is fine, all of you? Any doubts? Based on update domain value, right? Of VMs will be getting as based on the update domain value. So here this update domain value means this is the thing. Okay, update domains. Okay, based upon the update domain value, number of VMs will be updating and as well as working condition. What this number of VMs is updating and working condition, so you're going to understand this scenario. Okay, once you be taking some scenario on both fault domain and update domain. So example, if my VMs equal to 5, that is assume. Okay, and update domain value equal to 5. So here 5 by 5 equal to 1 means by default this update domain value is 5. By default of fault domain value is 3. Okay, by default update domain value is 5. Okay, basically. So that is the reason here 5 by 5 equal to 1. So here we are getting some 1, right? 1 VM getting condition and remaining 4 VMs are what? Okay, let us assume if VMs equal to 10, domain value is so here 10 by, as I mentioned you, by default update domain value is 5, right? 10 by 5 is equal to 2. So here 2 VM is under getting condition, remaining how many? Remaining 8 VMs, right? Under working condition. Okay, so basically here this denominator 5 is nothing but that is the default value of update domain value. Okay, so here 10 is nothing but a total number of VMs basically. So this updating condition and this one more thing is a working condition, right? So mostly maybe with these examples maybe you are not clear, right? So just we're going to discuss about one scenario which is a combination of both the fault domain and update domain basically. Okay, so then you're going to get clear clarity about what is working condition and updating condition. Okay, so scenario on fault domain and so this scenario is nothing but a combination of both fault domain and update domain. Okay, so as you know already we have taken some fault domain as a 3. So fault domain as a 3 means, so same application it will be available in 3 racks, right? Basically if you are taking some fault domain as a 3. So fault domain as a 3 means this same application it will be replicated into 3 racks, right? Basically. So within your web application, right, what are the technologies we're having here? As I mentioned you, nothing but HTML, Java and MySQL, that is usual. Okay, so we're having some HTML, Java and right. So like this it is going to be available in each and every rack for that respect to servers, right? Let us assume some unknown reasons this complete rack is down. Okay, so no problem for us, right? So we are able to get the request and response from this respect to another rack. Simply you can say that this thing, you know, fault domain is done, right? Now what about this update domain? Okay, so let us assume I have got some request to this server. Okay, even I need to get the response from this respect to server, right? So this is within this rack, this is a server, right? Basically, but unfortunately this Java is updating here. So here Java software is updating. Okay, so here some Java software is updating. Even whenever we are having some request within this respect to server, maybe some Java is updating or maybe some MySQL is updating. That is some Java is updating. Okay, so now without displaying some error message to the end user or maybe some end client, right? So what is going to happen is this request will be bypassed to this respect to rack of this respect to particular server, and after this some business logic is done within this Java, right? So now we are going to get the response back to the MySQL maybe. Okay, and finally this response will be delivered to the end client. So this is nothing but what is exactly updating and working condition. So here at this point of time this server is updating, right? And now this server is working condition. Okay, based upon this update domain value, right? So number of VMs or number of servers is going to be updating condition and as well as a working condition. If you're going with some VMs as a 10, right, if you're taking some update domain as value as a 5, so there is a chances that 2 VMs is under updating condition and remaining 8 VMs are working condition. So here in this scenario This server is an updating condition, right? But this is nothing but it is in working condition. So now based upon this update domain value, right? So we are going to configure how many number of VMs is going to be under working condition and as well as an updating condition here. Okay. So this is the scenario of both fault domain and update domain. So is this concept is fine? This update domain and working condition. Any doubts? Any of you? What is the scenario? Let us assume is updating. Maybe some software updates. Okay. Or we can say that response. So is it fine, this scenario? So have you is this concept is clear? This fault domain, update domain, all of you? Any doubts here? Any of you? Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Here I'm taking some Azure AV AvailabilitySet one. Okay, so as I mentioned you, it is 3. So you can make it as an fine. Click on OK. So go with password. So click on Run. Next disks. Next networking. Next management. Next advanced. Next tags. Next email create. Finally click on create. So it will take some time to create. Meanwhile, so if you observe here, right, within this availability options, we're having one more thing called as an availability zone. We're having one more thing called as an availability zone. So what this availability zone also we will discuss now. Basically. So we're having one more thing called as an availability zone. Nothing but logical grouping of items, trend data centers. data centers in the same region. Okay, so logical grouping of VMs in different data centers in the same region. Okay, so here if you observe this availability set, so this concept within this availability set, just we need to understand this file domain, update domain, that's it. Okay, but if you're going with this availability zones, right, so it is related to the data centers of same region and different regions. That is the only difference, except that nothing difference in this availability zones. Means here this availability zones, it is not available for all the regions here, only some region specific, we can say that. Okay, so let us assume here I'm going with some Azure test. Okay, so here region we're getting some East US, right? So you choose this availability zones, so here we're getting some 1 2 3, right? So let us assume here instead of this East US, if I am not able to choose, previously we are able to choose this region, now they have disabled this option. Maybe it may be a new feature. Okay, let us, we will create one more thing, one more resource group. Azure test 1. Let us assume I am creating in East Asia, South India. Okay, next tax, next region, create, final, create. So now if you choose some Azure test 1, right, you have got some region as a Asia specific, right? So see here, we are even not able to choose this availability zone. Means that specific region we don't have availability zone options. Okay, so that is the problem here. Means this availability zones option is not available for all the regions. Okay, it is specifically available for a specific regions here. Okay, and this availability zone is a new concept which is trying to implemented by Microsoft recently. Okay, so even you can go to here, you can type some Azure availability zones list. So in this, I think it is 7, right? In these regions only we have availability zones options. It is not available for all the regions. Okay, so but here if you are choosing some instead of Azure test, right, so we're having some availability zone. So here it is saying some 1 2 3, what this 1 2 3 values. Okay, so I'm going to explain. The availability zone is 1, right? So then our application will be deployed on data center for that specific region. So if the availability zone is 2, right? So then our application is deployed on 2 data centers. So here 3 data centers. I mean in East US, right? In East US, they are already having some availability zones. So if you are choosing some 3, right? All these 3 applications will be deployed on the 3 data centers for that specific reason. If you are going with some East US, right? So East US is having some 3 data centers. That is Azure. Okay. So this each and every data center you are having only one application. That is Azure. Maybe if you are going with some Hyderabad, right? So I'm having one data center at Gachibowli and one more data center at maybe some Madhapur and one more at Dilshuk Nagar. So if you are choosing this availability zones option, right, what it is going to be happen? Let us assume you have taken some availability zones with value as it 2. Means your application is deployed in one is at Gachibowli and one more thing may be at Dilshuk Nagar. So that is the scenario whenever if you are choosing some availability zones. So is the concept is clear, all of you? What is availability zones? Any doubts, any of you? So here this VM is created. So go to for networking, add in one port roles. Just I'm giving all the roles. Click on add. Okay, it is created. So if you want to access, right, how can you access here? Basically by using this IP address. Go with putty. Click on open. Just take this note of time. Okay, so this is availability sets basically. Okay, and availability zones as well. Any doubts? Any of you? Vidya, Satish, Ramesh, Jagdish,
No sure.
Narasimha. Okay, just I'm stopping here.